Welcome to Screen Junkies News. I am Roth Cornett, and I'm so delighted to be joined today by Smosh Gaines's Jovenshire.
Why, hello. I'm very excited to be here. Anytime I get to talk about stuff that's not just gaming, it makes me happy. So, I'm ready.
We are going to talk about things that are not gaming. It's finances, which is what the kids like to hear about. As
My
far as
accounting background is now starting to pay off.
Do you have an accounting background?
I was a financial advisor before I jumped into the wonderful world of production.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So you were actually I knew you were qualified to talk about the world of entertainment and quite the expert. I did not know you had actual financial background.
I was a financial advisor doing a lot of retirement stuff for individuals and companies, and I got in a really bad car accident. I was like, I'm going to follow my dreams, and then I went off to, film things and be in front of the camera.
I did not know that. That's actually a fascinating story.
Fun little origin story.
Fun origin story. Not what we're here to talk about today, but really interesting, and I would love to hear about that another time. I'm going to call you Joshua now because it sounds more serious.
Works. There we go. Now we're using the accounting title.
We're going to talk about Netflix. So here's the deal. I wanted to bring this up with someone who is a fellow film and television fan like myself, because I think as consumers, we often find this world of like streaming and so many different streaming platforms, and you have to sign up for so many things to find the entertainment that you want. A little overwhelming. I know that I do, and I talk about it all the time and how it's evolving. And there's a really great New York Times article about Netflix that you guys should check out. We'll put it in the link below. It's very comprehensive, but we're going to hit the broad strokes, which are that Netflix is basically making the big bets. We know that, right?
Yes.
They're in this race to win.
They've taught us that we need Netflix.
Yes.
Even when like the DVDs started to go away, we're like, oh no, I still have my Netflix account because reasons.
Yeah.
And it's like they're planning for the long game, so they know that we don't normally leave.
Yes, and Netflix basically taught us what Blockbuster could have been if they had been a little more ahead of the curve. So they are placing a $20 billion bet, as it turns out. They are $20 billion.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
That's a huge number.
Debt from costs and obligations as they race to win. But they are also up in subscribership. So here's some numbers. All right. They are 104 million subscribers worldwide, up 25% from last year and quadruple from 5 years ago. They are in 190 countries.
Which is a lot better than it was 5 years ago. And I think that's one of the major things in their numbers is because they're so worldwide now, which wasn't always the case. So now, their subscribers look like they're bouncing way up because now it's not just America. What I'd like to know is their numbers in America, like how, I'm sure they're still growing because again, it's Netflix, we need it. But how fast are they actually growing in America?
Well, this is the first year that they are larger in worldwide subscribers than here, and they're almost at a saturation point here. So they really do have to mine those fields a little bit more, and which is great. And they're coming out with programming like Okja, which appeals sort of both regionally and internationally.
I think it also comments on almost a different news story with a lot of stuff that you'll see in movies is they're appealing towards international audiences more and more, to the point where even Doctor Strange was changing source material to fit a international audience. And now Netflix is doing the same thing where they're trying to broaden out to be more of a international audience, and you see the content beginning to shift where it's not just Hollywood based.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, and I think you bring up a great point, which is that I think that its identity is sort of evolving. It started out 20 years ago, this was just a place that you rented DVDs and they were mailed to you. I don't know if people even know that anymore.
Yeah, right?
They were mailed
who had 2 DVDs being sent your way? How many movies are you watching?
Yeah, and then you mailed them back and then you got your new DVDs. That's what it was. And now it has of 50 original shows, 91 Emmy nominations, competing with HBO.
For them. I'm so excited for them because it really does, as a cable cutter, I'm so glad to see.
Do you have cable still at all?
Oh God, no. I don't need it. When I go to my parents' house and they still have it, I'm like, this is weird. And the only time I watch commercials now are when I'm traveling and I see what normal TV programming is like, and I'm like, how do you do this?
And I think you're right. That's how most people feel now, right? Very few people are open to even the ideas of commercials at all, which I think probably inspired Hulu to go to the tiered programming where you don't necessarily have to.
And at the end of the day, like, I'm okay with putting money down so that someone gets money somewhere else. So I'm okay with advertising and marketing, sure. But at least with Hulu, 30 seconds to 45 seconds and I'm done. Back to my show. Television, you're seeing like 2 to 3 minutes worth of commercials in a break.
Yeah.
And then going back to your programming. It's very difficult.
So the big question here is, well, there's two questions. Ostensibly speaking, the biggest competitor for Netflix, at least in our vision, is Amazon and Amazon Prime and Hulu. And the story of Netflix is basically the story of entertainment in a way in our world, because it started out as that DVD service competing with Blockbuster, right? And then it evolved and it started to have trouble licensing movies. And so then it started licensing television. And then it had trouble licensing television.
Yeah, it's losing titles all over the place.
Right. So it started to then make its own, these Netflix originals. But what's interesting is that a lot of the Netflix originals that are under that banner are actually not. They are also buyouts. They're licensed from other companies that are making it, including Orange is the New Black and the Marvel series.
And all the Marvel stuff, which I'm all excited for Defenders. And I forgot that's right. That's all just Netflix purchased it. And they're like, all right, cool, it's here now, which I guess now makes sense why they're $20 million or $1 billion in debt, because I guess Marvel properties aren't cheap or something.
Something like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Who knew? But the funny thing about that to me is that, so trouble with television, which was their new avenue, was that then networks started to be like, hey, wait a minute, Netflix is our big competitor. Do we really want to keep going into business with them? Because our business is dying off as a result. So now it's really pouring money into making its own programming. And then it's going after, it was at Sundance in a big way with Amazon. When I was there 2 years ago, they were picking up titles. So the question, but then it also goes into these huge deals with Adam Sandler. So the question is, does Netflix want to go into the blockbuster movie business? Does it want to make these niche? The Adam Sandler movies did very well for it.
Yeah.
Does it want to go
when
after
you watch them and you're
prestige?
like, oh man, like this is not a good movie. But those Adam Sandler, that deal, anytime they bring out a new Adam Sandler movie, they see a huge rise in subscribers.
Exactly.
And they need to go down those routes. But at the same time, at least here in America, like how often can they do that? Because eventually you're going to get to the point where like my grandma, she's not going to get Netflix. My mom probably not going to get Netflix. So how do you grow your American base so that you are pulling in more and more money to fill that debt? I think one of the things that they need to do in the next 2 years, once they kind of figure out their voice as they lose TV shows and make their own original content, is finding ways to expand off platform. And I honestly believe 100% that Netflix needs to partner up with Hilton. I think they need to partner up with Marriott. If they wind up partnering up with these hotels, that when you go to the hotel and you stay at the hotel, which is $1 billion industry, and all of a sudden when you're in for 10 minutes, you aren't watching like a TV show that you never really normally watch, but now you can watch anything you want on their TV utilizing Netflix. That is then a huge income that they can get every single month. So, it's just pretty much the normal subscriptions that they get, but on a much larger scale. And if they can move off platform like that, I think that's really going to help them, at least domestically.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how the creatives would respond to that, because right now the Netflix buyout means that there are no residuals for actors. And if you guys don't know, residuals basically mean like, if you are in a television show, then every time that show replays, you get a little bit of money.
You get a little check. And then you wake up in the morning, you open your mailbox, you're like, oh, hey, thank you, Nick at Night, for picking up my sitcom from 20 years ago.
Is that a true thing for you too?
No, I wish.
You
Dear
have an
God,
amazing life story.
I mean, a lot of interesting things. Unfortunately, not a sitcom on Nick at Night.
But yeah, so how would creators respond because the idea with the buyout is it's just on Netflix and it's only available there. I wonder how they would respond if it went off platform. The other question is the competitors, right? So
Yes.
Amazon, which in its 20-year history also notoriously often does not make a profit, and it has been doing the same sort of thing.
Which is so weird to hear that, because Amazon stock is so high. And then when you think of like online purchases, like, oh, Amazon.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because they often have lost money through things like, okay, so if you have Amazon, I have Amazon Prime.
Good.
And I'm like their ideal customer, because I will read all of my books on their Kindle app, basically, almost exclusively. I buy my toilet paper through them. And
So you've accepted Amazon as your Lord and Savior. No, me too. It makes sense.
Yes. Have you?
I just signed up for Amazon Fresh because I didn't want to go to the store every week.
Yeah, Thank you. So here's the thing about Amazon that's interesting, is that the way that it's actually making money currently is through its web services cloud. So their cloud services, how they're actually making money.
That makes sense.
But they have these long-term bets in the sense that it has this really nimble business model. Amazon is my lord and master, and I have to wonder, in a way, in the long term, if the thing that they have going for them is information, because information is power. It is ultimately going to be money. They have, basically, you could make a life model decoy of me via my purchases. And unlike Netflix, it's not just what I'm watching, it's what I'm watching, what I'm reading, what I'm buying, all of that. They can make a model of me to target directly and sell directly towards me in a way that no other service that also has video can.
Yet. And I think that, like, you also mentioned Hulu. Hulu's kind of stepping in that ring pretty strong. And we're going to, as people realize that there are amazing shows that are on these digital platforms, it's going to gear more and more people towards it. Because at the end of the day, if you're spending $10 on Netflix, $10 on Hulu, and what is that, $80 a month, or I'm sorry, $80 a year on Amazon Prime, that is still far less than you're paying for cable, and you're getting just as much content, but content you'll actually watch.
Yes.
And I think that as their subscriptions start to rise, we'll see more original content coming to Amazon, which we already are in the process of. Hulu's going to be a step behind them, but they also have the benefit of having some TV shows the day after they're aired. But it's funny because CW superhero shows now are not on Hulu. They're jumped right onto Netflix the day their shows, the season is over. I think that we're also going to see some major competitors pop up around them in a larger scale, such as I think Sony and I think Apple are going to step into the game. And I've also been saying this for a few years now, and I'm seeing baby steps from them ever since PlayStation announced PlayStation Vue, which is a great platform if you do want to have cable television and not spend $120 a month. You spend $60 a month, and it's pretty much you have cable, and it's all run through your PlayStation. I think what Apple and Sony need to do is really open up their arms and kind of bring in these smaller platforms and take their original content. Pretty much it's what YouTube TV should have been with YouTube content, because YouTube has YouTube Red and they have YouTube TV. Two completely different things. YouTube Red being original content and ad-free viewing of normal YouTube videos, but then their YouTube TV is, I think it's around like $40 a month, and you get like cable.
Right.
Kind of like PlayStation Vue, but not with as many options and choices. And the fact that YouTube TV wasn't branded Google, I think, was a huge mistake, because YouTube is the opposite of television. It was made that way. It was created that way. It should be the opposite of television. So if you're going to call something YouTube TV and it's just TV, it's like, why is this YouTube?
Why is it YouTube?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and they have a new, do you know about this? About the return of the Karate Kid, the series?
No.
Just announced today.
Oh, wait, was that the thing where Machio was coming back?
Actual Route and Johnny sweep the web because it's coming to YouTube Red. It was a bidding war. But apparently between
it's so
Netflix,
weird that it's coming to YouTube Red.
YouTube Red. It was apparently a bidding war between Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube Red. YouTube Red got it. So now, and I got to tell you, you got me with Karate Kid. You really did.
It's hard to say no to it. It also makes me, there's some really good content on YouTube Red. There's also a lot of content that it doesn't hit the same production level that you'd see in a Netflix original show. So that kind of scares me a little bit, because if I know that if Netflix is getting a Karate Kid thing, like, it's just the same as if I hear Netflix has a Marvel thing. It's like, okay, there's a higher level of quality that I expect from it. Not that I'm knocking YouTube Red. They got some great shows on there, but it's a smaller number for sure. If I get on my personal channel, let's say a random number is 150,000 views a month, about 7.5 thousand of that are YouTube Red viewers. So it's obviously much smaller than the average than
By
these
the
other
way,
SVOD platforms.
Congratulations, you're doing very well for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun platform for me to talk about stuff that's not always video games. But if YouTube Red really if YouTube wants to really pick up and go with this and be like, all right, cool, we're going to start putting biddings out there for these larger shows and become the next Amazon, the next Hulu. I don't think we need another hat in that ring, but they got Google money.
Yeah, they
so
do.
They'll be able to do it.
But here's where I'm left as a consumer, and this has been my job, lucky me, for a number of years. Like, I was a television critic, and so as a result, I had to have I had to have cable because there were a lot of times that I really needed to watch the show that night to review it. Cable, Hulu Plus, Amazon Prime, Netflix.
That's a lot of television.
It's a lot. And then it keeps going in terms of like, now I'm expected to get, if I want to see The Karate Kid, I'm supposed to get YouTube Red. CBS All Access is demanding that I go through them.
Right. And that's why I think we need to see a larger company like a Google or like a Sony or an Apple come in and be like, hey, now just spend $80 a month and you're going to get X, Y, Z, 1, 2, and 3. And then people will be able to choose. Pretty much they will make the next cable life because we can't get away from it. It's a corporation. It's a system that works that is profitable. So as cable begins to die, people will need to learn to adapt and they'll find the next thing that can turn a major profit. And that's creating a digital cable corporation. It's what's next.
I agree with you. My final conclusion about all of this is that this race needs to eventually, and I hope for the sake of the consumer in the next 5 or 6 years. I mean, look, this competition is ultimately going to be good for us.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right?
We're going to keep getting better and better content because everyone wants the subscribers.
Exactly. But at a certain point, it's just not going to be a sustainable model. Like you're talking about just spending and spending and spending in the hopes of eventually becoming profitable. Companies are only going to be able to do that for so long. We're going to be able to enjoy, as we are right now, this golden era of television and content creation. It's a beautiful thing. But right now, I'm curious to see, does Netflix move forward in terms of going for more blockbuster films to attract more of a global audience? Do they go and create so much content that it's niche to each market? What do they do?
I think, what was it, Blink, the Will Smith movie?
Yes.
I think that is going to be...
No, Bright, pardon me.
Yeah. I think that is going to be a big moment for them if it does well. I think that doing blockbusters is a great idea because if they have the same... if they can put out the same quality content in a movie that they do with most of their TV shows, then that's great. Because they're losing TV shows, but they're gaining new TV shows that are great. If they can step up the caliber of movie that they have, not just have Adam Sandler movies, though they are bringing in great numbers, it's still bad movies. Shout out to my boy Adam Sandler. If they can do that, it'll work. But at the same time, it goes back to my original statement that I think that they are nearing as like the capacity that they can get here domestically. They need to find other ways to get revenue that's not just based on subscribers.
Well, my final conclusion, what I would like to see happen is merger. Look, I mean, I do not want to go to 20 million places to get all of the things. One of the reasons that I do like Amazon as a platform is that it sort of tricks me. And even though I know I'm paying a little more, if I want to watch American Gods that month, then I have to sign up for Stars. I'm still doing it through the same place.
It's one spot.
It's one spot.
I literally just did that with CISO on my Amazon Prime account so I could watch Harmony Quest. Like it's easier that way, and I'm okay with spending a few extra dollars if I'm getting it all in one spot.
So to me, I think HBO is doing the right thing to have the HBO app that you can get on Hulu if you want it. You can also get it on Amazon Fire if you want it, but they're not saying you have to just come to HBO, our app for this versus CBS, who is doing that. Ultimately, I feel like merge either Hulu and Netflix or Amazon and Netflix, which would be a monster merger. I don't know that can or will happen, but just as a consumer, I need some kind of clarity.
I would not be surprised, and this is really calling out a crazy shot, but if, knowing how Google wants to be in the space, if Google has the money to buy out Netflix,
which they got Google money,
and they can do that. Amazon's just too strong on its own. I don't see that being bought out. But then you have Google with Netflix and YouTube TV, and then go against a Sony with a Sony View, and then you have Amazon. I think those three companies can be the ones that really take over. And Apple, if they get their stuff together, maybe can keep competing with them.
All right. Well, it's a lot to parse out as
we said. All this is taking time. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's to me, it's sort of like fascinating watching the evolution of entertainment, because the other question then becomes, and I'll leave us with this: if Netflix moves into more blockbuster movie making, then what does that mean? And our TVs are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What does that mean for the theater going experience? Which is a whole other question that theater owners are addressing and studios are addressing right now. But it is really fascinating. Nobody has the answer, including Netflix. I do suggest that you read this article in the New York Times. I've done my best to parse it out, but they certainly go into far more detail and have all of their facts and figures.
There's a lot in there.
It's a lot in there. It's very fascinating read. Thank you for your fascinating take.
Thank you for having me on here. Very rarely do I get to talk about numbers, statistics, and television.
Well, we do love charts around here.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you?
So I'm at the Jovenshire in all things social. You can do my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/thejovenshire as well. And if you're looking for some gaming content, we're over at Smosh Games, having a good old time there.
Right across the hall
Literally.
from us, literally. So thank you for joining us today. I am Matt Roth-Cornett on all of the things. Like, subscribe, and hey, be nice to each other. Click here for more awesome Screen Junkies news and click the logo to subscribe.